When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you check? Do you turn off your alarm and turn on your mind to the notifications on your phone? Do you even have an alarm set up on your phone? Is your phone the first thing you touch when you wake up and the last thing you hold before you sleep? Does it sometimes feel like you're in more of a relationship with your phone than your significant other? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are quite like me and millions of others who start their day with technology. Through some research that I have done in my writing honors class, I came across these two authors arguing the strength and impact of technology on society today, Justin Vinh and Sherry Turkle. Justin Vinh's article, titled Social Media, the Screen, the Brain, and Human Nature, dives into the discussion that social media heavily affects our interpretation of life's quality. As we're scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, we are in a constant state of observance and comparison of ourselves to strangers' lives. He points out that humanity's tendencies toward comparison to others and its addictive nature all contribute to level of unhappiness that was researched at Stanford and Brown. The experiment evaluated students' level of happiness in response to their time spent online, and the result was that those who spent a great deal of time on social media reported being lonelier. The instant gratification brought out from social media is so rewarding that we feel temporarily fulfilled through notifications of people liking our image rather than the permanent satisfaction of creating long-term relationships by simply being present. Vin really believes that this might be the very reason for the decrease in happiness levels of the students in the study. I mean, as you're watching this video, you're probably scrolling through TikTok or checking notifications on your phone, and I don't blame you. It's how some of us were raised and how some of us were conditioned. For Sherry Turkle, however, the conversation about technology doesn't even scratch the surface of social media. In her article, Stop Googling, Let's Talk, Turkle talks about how technology hinders our connections with one another. In an interview with a 15-year-old daughter, she is told a story about an interaction at the dinner table. The daughter was frustrated that the father was Googling information to add to the conversation, and even asked him to stop Googling so that they could simply talk. Through this observation, Turkle takes note that people keep the conversation on topics where they won't mind being interrupted, specifically by their devices. She also goes on to say that for this reason, technology has become more of an addiction than a resourceful tool to help us make connections. In fact, she believes that we have lost connection with one another, and it's evident through the very way that we cannot hold a conversation, let alone create deep relationships with one another. There's also a study that Turkle mentions done by psychologist Yalda T. Oles, where children were required to give up their technology at an outdoor camp. By the end of the experience, the children were able to read facial expressions and identify actors' emotions in videotapes better than children who were in a control group. Turkle thinks that this is due to the short absence of technology in these kids' lives. When people are constantly consuming information that makes it difficult to process their own emotions, it can be seen on platforms like TikTok, which pull at your heartstrings with one video and have you in tears in the next video that pops up is a funny video of a group of friends pranking each other. It's emotionally manipulative and prevents people from actually knowing who they are outside of their phones. The way that these two authors write about technology is very similar. They both use anecdotes to appeal to their audience. Specifically, Vin uses it more as an emotional appeal with the narrative of a teenager waking up before school and checking their phone before even starting their morning routines. He also uses the experiment I mentioned earlier about estimating peer happiness based on their usage of social media. It's a difficult thing to measure happiness, but the study is based on the belief that emotions could be quantifiable. Turkle, on the other hand, uses her account of the college student experience as being one of multitasking ability. Students nowadays are able to hold conversations while typing out a response in iMessage to their bestie across the room. Be honest. How many times have you found yourself in a room full of people where you should have been paying attention to the conversation, but instead you were clickety-clacking away and nodding your head along, letting people know that you are listening when you are in reality in the netherworld? Turkle's whole message is about this level of deception that we have mastered as youth in a technology-dependent world. By the way that Turkle separates herself from Vin is in her use of factual and statistically backed evidence. Going more into that, Turkle uses studies by the Pew Research Center, for example, which reported that 89% of adults said they had used their phones during the last social gathering they attended, but they weren't happy about it. Through these results, she proves that technology use could be detrimental to connection. She used another study from the University of Michigan, where a psychologist, Sarah Conrath, found a 40% decline in empathy among college students, which most took place after the year 2000. Turkle blames this on the reduction in quality of conversation and an inability to connect in person, beyond the screen. There are numerous studies and experiments that Turkle uses which round up to about 6, whereas Vinh only used about 3 examples of other authors to back his argument. Because of her better use of statistical evidence, Turkle is a more compelling author in my eyes. Her paper is also relatively longer than Vinh's, which already makes me feel like there was more depth to her claim. She manages to dig deeper into her evidence and evaluate her own response through personal experience and other experiments rather than just stating facts. Turkle is able to gather evidence and also use her own observed narratives as proof, which is extremely admirable for a writer. It's important to not only do research, but to also include experience as a viable research in order to feel a connection with the audience and make a well-informed claim. Although this whole video is about how Turkle showed up Vinh in an essay battle around technology, I think both are missing a part of the solution. It's not about just putting the phones away. It's about the fact that society does not teach users of social media to be conscious of its effect on us. As humans, we have been unsuccessful in removing our sense of identity from technology, and instead, we use social media to cultivate who we think we are. Yes, Turkle's argument definitely has more validity through her use of pathos, backed by statistics, where Vin's argument is more of an emotional cry for help from technology's wrath. But there is more to be explored from such a topic. We should encourage one another to use technology as a way to expose ourselves to who we could be rather than conform ourselves to others' ideologies of happy. Social media is a presentation much like this video, and I just presented you with my opinion on these 2 articles. But don't take my word for who they are. Do your research and unapologetically deny or concur with me so I know what kind of thinker you are.